In this video, we're going to talk about working with fractions and decimals. Fractions and decimals, they're both just ways of talking about parts of things. So here's what you need to know though about decimals in particular. Decimal, that word decimal, the prefix dec or des means tenth. And then the other part of that word makes this refer to the fact that we have a base 10 unit system. And so what that means is that when we count, we are single digits, 0 through 9, but then on 10 becomes a double digit number. That's where that comes from, and that informs how we talk about place value, the hundreds column, the thousands column. All of that is a result of working in a base 10 system. So I want us to consider the number 135.25. All right, 135.25. If we were going to assign place value to this, the 1 out front, that is our hundreds place. The 3, this is in the tens place, and the 5 is it's in what's called the ones place, right? Because this represents 100, this represents 30, and this is just a standalone 5. Now, this little period right there is what's called a decimal point. It separates the ones from what we call the tenths. The tenths. And what this means is that this 2, in a fraction sense, is 2 over 10. That's why we call it the tenths place. Now, this 5, you might be able to guess, is what's called the hundredths. The hundredths place. And this represents 5 over 100. So if you're tracking with me, if we just wanted to consider the decimal portion of this, it would be 2 over 10 plus 5 over 100. Find a common denominator. This is actually 20 over 100 plus 5 over 100, which is equal to 25 over 100. And that is where we get that decimal from. Now, there are a couple misconceptions around decimals that some students get tripped up with, and I want to call them to your attention. The first one is this, 0.25 and 0.150. My question is, which one is bigger? Is 0.25 bigger or 0.150 bigger? The answer is that 0.25 is bigger than 0.150. Now that might be counterintuitive because 150 is certainly bigger than 25, but we're working with decimals right now. And what you need to do when comparing the sizes of decimals is only worry about the closest numbers or the closest place value to the decimal. 2 in this case is bigger than 1, and so 0.25 is going to be bigger than 0.150. Now, another thing, kind of a misconception or something that I want to call to mind, is that adding a 0 to the end of a decimal does not change, add, or subtract the value in any way, shape, or form. This number right here is the same as 0.15. Okay, just because I added a bunch of zeros does not make this any bigger. So that's something to keep in mind about decimals. Now what I want to do is I want to go over some common decimals in the form of fractions that you will see, just so you know that you should be familiar with them. I want to talk about 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, and 1/16 to get started. All right, 1/2. What is this expressed as a decimal? Well, remember, we want to talk about in terms of 10 or tenths or hundredths. This as a decimal, what we really want to ask ourselves is what number over 10 makes this true? Well, answer is 5 over 10. And so in decimal form, this would be 0.5. Let's do the same thing with 1/4. What we really want to do is ask ourselves, what number over 10 is this equal to? Well, there is no real whole number that when we put it over 10, it's equal to 1/4. But there is such a number that if we put it over 100, it'd be equal to 1/4. And that number is 25 over 100. And so our decimal becomes 0.25. How about 1/8? Well, if you put this in a calculator, do 1 divided by 8, you're going to get this number. It's 0.125. 0.125. And then how about 1/16? What would 1/16 in a calculator be? Well, I'm actually just going to do it for you. 1 divided by 16 equals 0.0625 equals 0.0625. Now, these decimals right here, these are really common in the realm of building things. If you've ever looked at a tape measure, per se, you might have noticed those big and little lines on the tape measure. Those big and little lines generally represent 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, or the full 1 inch. Now there's another type of decimal that I want to bring your attention to. These are a little fancier. I want to talk about, for example, what is 1/3 as a decimal? What is 1/3 as a decimal? Well, if you put 1/3 into a calculator, if you do 1 divided by 3 in a calculator, whoa, you get this number. It's 0.33333333 repeating. And that is because if I tried to represent 1/3 as something over 10 or 100 or 1,000, I could never do it perfectly. And so this is what we call a repeating decimal. It will just go 0.333333 repeating forever. Now, mathematicians, people that do math, they don't write an infinite number of threes. What they do, shorthand, is they put a little top hat over the number or the sequence of numbers that repeats. So this right here, 0.3 with a little line over top, is the same thing as expressing 0.3333 forever. Now, that might beg the question, okay, 2/3, what is that? You could say, well, it's 0.3333 plus 0.3333, and you would actually be correct. 2/3 is 0.66666 forever. But our shorthand method, we could just put a little bar over top, and that would be acceptable. Now that's a little bit on how to work with fractions and decimals.